Hey there, everybody. This is me, Kaylee McMahon. You already know me. This is number one Leading Ladies podcast. We focus on being by women for women, and we focus on building each other up instead of tearing each other down. We also go over the stories of how women have made it, basically. So we have a really cool guest on today, Penny Kidd. I love your name. I love what you do, but I'd like, if you would, for you to introduce yourself to our audience and tell them a little bit about what you do.
Sure. Thanks for having me. My name is Penny Kidd. I have a business called Pennywise Coaching, and I'm a financial coach. And basically what that means is I work with people not around investing or insurance or those kind of things, really around behavior and creating a plan for your income, where is it going to go and how that aligns with goals and values, really. So
Very cool. So one thing that we've noticed is that people sometimes have a perception of what it's like being an entrepreneur or a business owner. Oh, you have all this free time and whatever. Very funny. But
yeah, yeah.
what the reality looks like is that it takes quite a bit for us to have some success and get to traction, and it takes a lot of sacrifice. So in the beginning, I want to have just the real story on, what did it take for you to, like for me, I had to put my first business on a credit card. Some of us have to go back and live with our parents, take a HELOC out on our house, whatever it took to get going. What is the real story behind Penny Kidd? And then what did it take to get to traction where you're like, okay, I'm making money. This is working.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I have a background in social work. So I worked almost 30 years in child protection, child welfare kind of things. And so I didn't have a business like background or even really know that that's something I wanted to do, but I certainly loved helping people. And I found the longer I worked for the county and kind of the dysfunction that was within, the more I realized I just wanted to be able to do what I knew I could do, and whatever that looked like, I'd figure it out. So I definitely was one of those people who built the plane while flying kind of people. And I worked part-time at it for a little while, probably a year and a half or 2 years. And then finally quit my job when I just was over it and felt like I don't have any time to build what I'm passionate about and to learn what it's going to take to be a business owner and an entrepreneur. So I part of my story and why I help people is that my husband and I had gotten out of debt ourselves and learned how to do the dreaded B word, the budget, and kind of create a plan. And what I really realized was that it wasn't rocket science, but nobody really teaches us that. And I used to think there was a one budget that if I could just get that right, everything would align. But truly, a budget's a living document, so it has to change with your life and what's going on. And so once I got some traction on that, we paid off about $30,000 worth of consumer debt, and then we paid off the rest of our house, and we cash flowed 2 kids through college because we didn't have a plan for that earlier. And all of those things, as they start falling in place, people around me started saying, well, how did you do that? Who doesn't have a house payment, right? And so as I used a lot of that counseling and background of being okay with wherever you're at and not shaming and embarrassing people about their financing or finances, and just saying, where you are, let's go forward. Let's don't beat you up about how you got there. And so there was a lot of learning as I went. I didn't even know, like I started out networking and I didn't even know that was a thing. I felt like, what do you mean complete strangers meet in a meeting room and go out for coffee and do things and talk about their businesses so they can see how they can collaborate or refer to each other? And you kind of get in your bubble in whatever industry you're in. And I didn't know that was happening in business world, right? So I love connecting people, and that's a big part of who I am and what I do now too, is putting together people in their resources so I can say, oh, I hear, you need a dog walker. I know somebody that can help you with that. So I think that goes back to a lot of my social work days where I had to know what the resources were so that when I stumbled upon that issue, I could plug people in. This was well before the internet, right? And now I think it's all about who you know and how you met them, and do you like them and trust them, kind of thing. So while my industry or my business is very service oriented, I don't have a lot of overhead expenses. I mean, you can certainly you can spend every dime you make if you're not careful, for sure, in business, and hire every, coach and shiny object that comes along. So you do have to be a little discerning about, is this really going to move my business along, or is it just me staying safe and studying and kind of playing in the corner because I'm afraid to get out and sell my product, right? And I think when you're a service-based person, particularly, you feel like, you're selling yourself a little bit, and it's scary. So, but yeah, it's been a bit of a slow growth, but I've been in business now 8 years, and full-time 5 years, 5.5 years. And like you said, there's this, I think, kind of feeling like you must not be very busy because you work for yourself or you work from home, or, I was working from home and on Zoom before it was cool, before the pandemic forced everybody to do that. But there's also a fine line of, you can work all the time because it's right here, and so, yeah, is that long-winded answer to your question?
Yeah. So it sounds like, part of getting started and getting that traction was getting the feedback from friends and family probably around you that were saying, oh my God, I want to know how to do that too. Now on the money side of things, when did you know that you had traction? Like you always try to figure out kind of like, what is the amount that people will pay for this service? How did you get that figured out?
That's a good question. I think it's a growing process for me. I started out charging way too little and realizing that, I had other people's comments in my head feeling like, well, who's going to pay you if they don't have any money? I don't know. I just want to help people. Well, then I realized, well, part of helping people in 99% of the world is you pay for whatever you need for help, right? So, and then when I started seeing the incredible turnaround for people and how much they weren't paying towards a Visa bill or, just blowing through money, I'm like, okay, I guess I had to grow into my own value and self-worth, and it's probably not where it's going to be forever. I think as you grow and change and really believe in what you're doing, you find value and find other people, only takes kind of one time to somebody to pay that, and you go, okay, well, I guess it's worth that, and but it's hard, I think, to ask for what you're worth because you're so afraid that somebody's going to question, is it really worth that much? Why are you worth that much when I don't make that much or something? So I've changed my prices a number of times since I started coaching, and and you also realize that you're not paid necessarily for the hours you're in front of somebody. You're paid for your expertise and all the work that you're doing outside of the time you're with somebody. And that was a mind shift for me, to realize it's not just about, I'm not just cleaning your kitchen sink and so therefore you're going to pay me by the hour. It's different with other services.
That's funny that you said that, because I think that one of my favorite books is Women Don't Ask. The reason that we make so much less than men is because they don't have that problem. They don't give a rip what somebody else thinks about the amount that they're charging. They're like, I am worth $1 billion. Then when someone pushes back, like, we'll negotiate down like a little bit. How about that?
Yeah.
But women really, we are extrinsically motivated for the most part, not all of us, but where we are focused on what is the reaction of the receiver of my request, comment, whatever. What are they going to do? And then that's going to dictate what I charge or whatever. So I would definitely recommend that book for anyone that's out there, because when you get started in business, just like when you graduate from college, it's so, so important that the first time you negotiate your salary, the first time you get a job, the first time, you go do your research online, like for this industry, what is the typical average salary? I'm going to negotiate a little bit higher than that. And then, or like quite a bit higher than that, and then land somewhere above where I was. And over a woman's lifetime, that can lead to about $1 million in missed income if you don't do that. So, I mean, obviously I already know that. So it's awesome that you figured out a way to know your self-worth, ask for what you wanted, and obviously to have a thriving business because of that. Now, what would you say, Penny, has been probably your biggest challenge, biggest lesson?
I feel like I'm learning every day something new. I mean, I think what I've realized is that I know I've learned so much more even about finances and financial coaching in the last 5 years particularly, but really 7 or 8 years, and I think sometimes you feel like you have to know it all to start with the business. And I know 10 times now what I knew then, and you don't have to know it all. I guess that's my biggest lesson is like, I don't know the answer to everything. And it's okay to be like, I don't know that one. Let's go find out together. Let me go see how I can get that answer and I feel like at first we're so worried that I might not know everything. So you're going to ask me a trick question and I might not know the answer. It's like, all right, I don't know that one. Let's see what we can learn together. And that people don't really hold that against you if you don't have it all figured out.
Yeah.
As long as you get there together, you know, they, I don't know. I don't know anybody that's like a walking encyclopedia that has it all, right there. But much of being an adult is learning how to find the answer, right? It's not just knowing it all. And sometimes I feel like that's where school is missing, where you're taught to study answers when really what you need to do is be taught the process or to figure out the answer, and in whatever industry that is.
I agree. Like, I think school is so screwed up, whereas like the best part of school I've seen is master's programs where they have you go solve a real world, real problem and then write about how you did it. I think you're 100%
Yeah.
right. Yeah. I think that,
Yeah.
again, I'm not in education, but if I were, that would be what I'd push for. Penny, what
Right.
would you say is probably your biggest win?
I think the fact that I've managed to, well, getting out of debt, that was a huge win, right? And that really is what afforded me the ability to walk away from a career and jump out into the world and go, I don't know if anybody's going to pay me to do this. Probably was not my smartest move, actually. I probably wouldn't recommend that. But I also felt like I could just wait forever for the time to be right. And I just needed to do it and find it. So I think my biggest win is that I'm still in business 8 years later as a small business owner, and bringing home a paycheck and having a consistent plan for my money. So it's not that, and of course I'm fairly debt averse because that's what I'm trying to help people get out of debt. So I'm not one to just go rack it up and figure it out later. So I'm probably a little conservative, but I've figured out ways to create systems for people so that they can know how much they can be paid from their business. Because what I've found working with business owners is that oh, I've got $100,000, but I'm paying myself 10. It's like, so this whole concept of when people say, oh, I made six figures, I'm like, yeah, but what did you make? So your business might have made that, but if you're spending 5, really, did you win? And so I think for me to feel confident that my business is sustainable, because it doesn't matter how big or how little it is, I have a process and I can weather the storm. I weathered the pandemic fairly well and didn't crumble and didn't have to close the doors. So, for any of us that are, still standing after the last year, you need to kind of pat yourself on the back and say, yay, I live to fight another day. So, and I'm doing something I love and that I don't feel like it's work.
That's great. And you're helping people too. So I find that a lot of women I have on our podcast, actually, whether they mean to or not, have a mission driven business. So that's awesome that you're able to help people get out of debt and be able to have this is an entryway to financial freedom. With my business, we
Yep.
have tools for financial freedom or opportunities, but it's just, you have to do both. You can't just do one thing or the other.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to.
I agree. Totally. Yeah.
Well, Penny, if you could share one thing with our audience, what would you share with
I think, because my focus tends to be around money, and many of my new clients have been business owners and women, I tend to draw those. I think it is to just start, and don't overthink it and feel like you have to have it all perfect. That sometimes it's like cleaning your garage, right? You just have to get in there and start in a corner. And you can have that analysis paralysis if you wait for everything to align perfectly. And sometimes it's, just start and surround yourself with people that are smarter than you and that you can learn from. those things, I think, really is what has helped me keep going and to keep feeling like I've got other people I can rely on and ask questions of, because we shouldn't live in an isolation.
Yeah, and being a business owner is its own sport, you know what I mean? So you got to have
Yes,
other athletes that you can ask, how did you do this, you know?
that's right. That's right. That's right. The pros learn from somebody else, right? They had teachers and coaches. And I think sometimes when we think we have to figure it out all by ourselves, that's when we get stuck
Yeah,
because,
I'll attest to that. Penny, what would be the best way for our audience to get a hold of you if they wanted to work with you or ask you some questions?
yeah, basically through my website, I think is the easiest thing. And that's just pennywisecoaching.com. And my contact information, there's even a calendar link on there to schedule some time with me. But I'm on LinkedIn as well, a little bit on Instagram, and Facebook has a decent presence under Pennywise Financial Coaching. So, but I think the direct path to me is through pennywisecoaching.com, and I'm super accessible and easy to get a hold of. And once we're, connected, then I'm pretty open to the people that I work with and that I like to connect others to. So yeah, I would love to visit with any of your people. It would be really fun. Be honored to do that.
Perfect. Yeah, we have tons of women that could definitely use your services. For everybody out there who's listening, watching, reading this later, thank you so much for taking the time today to learn a little bit about how to make it in business from other women who are doing it, and also letting us help each other to support each other in business as ladies. I'll see you guys next week on Number One Leading Ladies. This is Kaylee and Penny. See you soon.
Thanks, Kaylee.